What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Sunnydale Live. I'm your host, Jonathan, and today we talk about episode 2 of season 1, The Harvest. So this episode picks up right where the last one landed, with Buffy in the crypt and Luke on top of her, and you're like, ah, shit, finally we find out what happens. Because, again, last episode ended on a cliffhanger. Cliffhangers always drive you insane. And then it's the cross that Angel gave Buffy that she's wearing. It hurts Luke, he falls back, and then she runs out. She saves Willow, saves Xander, and where's Jesse? They escape, they get back to the library, and regroup with Giles. So for the first time, episode 2, very beginning, we see all of the Scoobies, the core Scoobies, together for the first time. And it's kind of great. You don't know that that's the core group yet. You don't really understand any of this yet, but it is rewatching the core groups together for the first time right there as we learn the lore. We learn about the old ones, we learn about how vampires were created, we learn about all these different things, and it's fun, it's enlightening. It's like, it's a lot of exposition, but it's done in a way that doesn't feel too talky, even though it's just a talking scene. It does it very well. Luke and Darla throw Jesse to the master, and they're like, oh, we're going to use you as bait. We kind of established, the vampires know that she might be a slayer. They suspect it. And so it's a lot of okay, there's these two groups, and the Scoobies, even though they're not called the Scoobies yet, and the master and his men. And the Scoobies are trying to figure out, well, where did Luke come from? How did he get in there? Where did they go? Where are they keeping Jesse? Because the harvest, they know about the harvest, so they're like, maybe Jesse's still alive. And I do love that early on, episode 2, the beginning of episode 2 no less, they established that Buffy's not just the brawn. It's not going to be Giles and Willow figuring everything out and Buffy just point Buffy where you want her to fight. But she's smart, she's good at reasoning, she understands tactics, because she's the one that figures out where Luke came from. She figures all that out. And I think that's important to establish that Buffy's actually pretty smart. She's pretty quick on her feet. Because a lot of times you have the lead, the hero, just be kind of muscle and not really be intelligent. And I do like that they make her smart. They make her quick. One thing that this episode does that I'm kind of a little annoyed by is they make Angel kind of a coward. He tries to warn Buffy off of helping Jesse. During the ending scene with the bronze, he doesn't want to go in there. He's like, oh, she did it, and he's just surprised. He's very weak in this episode, which I'm glad as the season goes on and the show goes on, they move away from. But he really doesn't want to get his hands dirty, which I guess does kind of make sense, because once you start to explore Angel's background a little more, he did spend a lot of time just kind of hiding away from humanity, not really doing anything. It's really Buffy that inspires him to do things. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but it is just kind of like, man, Xander's out there doing shit. Why don't you do something? I do love, though, that when Buffy figures out where they're going, she's like, I'm going to go help them. And she shuts it down. Xander wants to help. She shuts it down real quick. She's like, no, I'm the Slayer. I'm the destined one. I'm the one that has to take the risk. It's too dangerous for you guys. She draws a line in the sand real quick and establishes, I do the dangerous stuff, you guys can do the research, but that's as far as this goes. And that's very much how it's portrayed as what the Slayer is supposed to do. The Watcher does the research, the Slayer slays. Giles even said, I'm not going to go fight, that's not my job, that's not what I'm here for. And so it seems very much like Xander and Willow are supposed to help that. And so then Buffy goes off to go find Jesse. I do love that Principal Flutie comes and once again is trying to stop her from leave, because it's like on the last episode where he was very much over the top friendly and trying too hard to be relatable. He's doing that this time, but he's also putting his foot down. Like, you can't just leave. You can't just walk out of campus. That's not allowed. That's not okay. And he locks the gate. And then Buffy jumps over the gate like it's nothing. Like, where is this strength come from? We never see, for the rest of the show, we never see this level of strength from Buffy again, where she can clear a fence that high in one jump. And then later on in this same episode, when her and Xander are in the sewers and they're trying to close the door to protect them, she needs Xander to help her close it. So it is odd how her strength isn't even consistent in the first episode, in the same episode. But the important thing in this one is when she gets into the sewers and Xander comes to help her. And that moment changes everything. Because we talked about on the movie episode, I never bought that Merrick thought Buffy was special, that Merrick thought Buffy was different. It never really made sense. But on the show, they established early how Buffy's different, and it's her friends. It's that she doesn't do all this stuff by herself. Maybe she's supposed to, but she doesn't. She has a support group. She has a network. She has other people there. And that all kind of gets solidified when Xander just shows up and he's like, I'm going with you. I'm not, you can't send me back. I'm not doing this. Jesse's my friend, and I'm going to be there with you when we do this to save him. And that's, I think, one of the most important scenes in the entire show because it changes the dynamic. Moving forward, Buffy has a team. Yeah, sometimes she goes off and does stuff by herself, but she's not like every other Slayer. In this moment right here, and it's something small, it's Xander going, I want to help try to save my friend, literally changes everything. And there's something about that I think is kind of cool. Like it's interesting. And you don't realize the importance of it at this point, but it is something that is harped on over and over and over again as the show goes on, that it's the people around her that make her different than every Slayer who's come before and the Slayers who we'll meet later, like the later Slayers. And it's her network, it's her group of friends. It's that she's not alone. One girl in all the world, like that's done. She changes the legacy, which kind of becomes, I mean, that's how the show ends. It's her changing the legacy, her changing the story. And it all is established with Xander being stubborn right here in the second episode. And I think that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of great. I think not enough shows understand what they're saying this early on. And Buffy really gets it. It really does feel like there's a plan. And it's all laid out in episode 1 and 2. Like this 2-part pilot really knows what it's trying to say. And that is rare. Battlestar Galactica, I think the miniseries really understood as well. But and The Shield kind of got it. But there's very few pilots that understand what the premise of the show is that early on. If you call back on the first episode, Willow is completely mistreated and talked down to by Cordelia. Like she's treated like trash. Cordelia even says to Buffy, once you can spot all the losers, once you can notice all the losers by sight, your life will be a lot easier. So you gotta love on this episode. Willow overhears Cordelia and Harmony, which we meet Harmony, one of the best characters of the Buffyverse. I don't care what anyone says. She is so funny and genius. She goes on to play a major role in the Angel show. Such a great character. But I do love that Cordelia and Harmony and some other students are talking shit about Buffy. Particularly about the scene in the last episode where Buffy almost stakes her. Willow overhears this and then finally gets her revenge on Cordelia. Because you get the impression that Cordelia has been treating Willow like shit for years. So Harmony and Cordelia and the other guy who are talking shit are all working on this computer program. Then you could tell it's hard for them and they're stressing out and they're trying to get it all done. And and Buffy and Willow tries to stand up for Buffy, and Cordy's like, "Who gave you permission to exist?" Still treating her like shit, tearing her down, dismissing her out of hand, real horrible, real dismissive, real just talking shit. And then Willow just kind of shuts up and kind of goes back into her shell. And Cordy and Harmony go back to talking shit. And then they finish the assignment and they're like, finally, we're done. And they're like, how do we submit this? And Willow, as she walks off, just casually goes, deliver. And then leaves. And Cordy's like, oh. And she hits delete. And everything she just worked on got deleted. And it's something so small and so simple and kind of irrelevant, but it's so beautiful. And even we're 2 episodes in and we already have character development for Willow. She's finally learning to stand up for herself. She's finally learning to defend herself and to lash out back at the people who have hurt her. She's not as meek as she is in episode 1. And it's been an episode and you totally buy it. Buffy's inspired her to be braver, to be stronger, to be better. And you gotta love that kind of growth. Um, Willow, over the course of the series, grows a lot. She changes a lot. I don't always think necessarily for the better, but I do love this part of her development. I think it's kind of I think it's kind of beautiful. I gave Buffy credit for being smart and being quick on her feet, but I do have to wonder about her and Xander's the brains, like where what they're thinking. They're looking for Jesse, and then they just find Jesse wandering through the sewer, and he even tells them, "They told me I was gonna be bait to trap you guys." So then other vampires come, they run, they end up in a thing, and Jesse turns and shows them that he's a vampire and tries to kill Xander. They throw him out the door, and then they shut the door. But it's just like, how did you not see that coming? At what point? Like, at no point did they question it. They're just like, oh, that thing we came down here to do, it was kind of done for us. There's a logical that Buffy and Xander did not really think through. And I would almost say the master messed up. They should have had one or two vampires guarding Jesse that Buffy could easily defeat to save Jesse so that it feels more real. Because Buffy would never buy that Jesse's just on his own. But she did. She bought it. She believed it. And I'm just like, how? How did you buy that? I guess it's one of those things where when you want something to be true so badly, you just take it at face value because there's no legitimate reason that Buffy should have believed that. And it almost got them killed. Um, but they got out of there alive. They regroup. They find out more information about the Hellmouth and who the Master is and how the Master got there, and that the Master is actually stuck. That he was trying to open the Hellmouth, and because there was an earthquake that disrupted the spell, he's now trapped in between dimensions and can't really leave beyond this little tiny parameter. And the harvest is to free him from that. So the team, the gang, they get together. They're like, we got to go save him. Buffy gets grounded. Joyce tries to keep Buffy on the straight and narrow, which I do. I always have negative feelings towards Joyce. I don't think she's a great mother, but in these early episodes, she's trying. Like, you have to give it to her. She really is trying. She's attempting to keep Buffy from going down the wrong path again. She's trying to be a parent. She's trying to be a mother, and you got to respect that. And you can already tell, even in episode 2, that Buffy being a Slayer is going to cause problems in her relationship with her mother, because it's starting right now. Her mother grounds her because she's been skipping school, but she was skipping school to try to save Jesse. And Buffy sneaks out of the house to go and, try to save the town. And it's like, okay, already her trying to be a good daughter and her destiny is coming at conflict, and it's battling, and it's two different parts of her life that she's trying to keep separate, and they're already in conflict, and they set that up early. We get to see more of who Cordelia is, and she's, they call her Queen C in the show a lot in the early seasons, and you kind of see why. Like, she just holds court in the bronze, and all the other women just eat up the Cordettes, as they called, just eat up every word she says. You gotta love it. I forgot how vain she is. She says something like, when I'm shopping, I have to buy the most expensive thing. Not because it's the most expensive, but because it costs more. And it's like, how's that different? What's the difference between those two? Cordelia is ridiculous, but you love her. And I will have to say, like, as this goes on and we start watching more episodes talking about it, I'll talk about different characters and their growths. But for my estimation, I think Cordelia is easily one of the three characters with the most growth over the course of the series. Like, who Cordelia is at the end versus who she is in these first two episodes are completely different people, and yet it never seems out of character. It's not like you just one day watch and be like, well, that's weird. That seems very out of character for Cordelia. There's a gradual evolution. And over the course of that gradual evolution, you buy it every step of the way. The writing, the directing, and I mean, a large part of that credit has to go to Charisma Carpenter. She nailed that performance. And she grew that character over the course of, 7 years? And then, that little last appearance in season 5 but she really did. It's beautiful acting. It's beautiful character development over time. Something you can only really do on shows, but she does an amazing job of it. Um, I do love that she's so dismissive of Jesse, and then when Jesse's like assertive, she's like, "Oh, okay." She just kind of likes it and goes with it. It's interesting. Like it just all of that was so well done. There's some really great storytelling in this second part. We see the Scooby show up late and Buffy go in, and her round two with Luke is very different from round one. She holds her own. Like the first time she just got manhandled. This time she holds her own. And actually before this, I think there's a very important scene that I think people don't pay enough attention to when they're criticizing Xander. Um, because everyone always talks about his insane jealousy of Angel and Spike. And a common criticism he gets is like, well, he's fine with Anya, who's a vengeance demon, who arguably did more damage than Angel or Spike ever did. But he can never seem to forgive Angel and Spike for being vampires, even though they had no souls, even though, they've done a lot of good and this and that. And I think what no one ever talks about is this pilot. This is episode 2 now, but what happens in the harvest? He's very much like still talking about saving Jesse. Buffy's already in there fighting Luke, and he's talking to Giles and Willow about like, we gotta stop Jesse before he does something stupid. And Giles just keeps hammering into him. Jesse's dead. That thing in there is not Jesse. He may look like Jesse, he may talk like Jesse, he may even have Jesse's memories, but he's not Jesse. He's a demon wearing his skin. And Xander still doesn't believe him. And he goes in there and he fights Jesse, and he tries to talk sense into Jesse. He tries to save him. And he ends up killing Jesse. The first vampire he kills is his best friend. He kills him by accident. Someone knocks Jesse into the stake. But I think that moment profoundly changes Xander. And I think, yes, there's a level of jealousy when it comes to Spike and Angel. I'm not going to deny that. He clearly has the hots for Buffy, and these are men that Buffy has chosen. And there's a level of jealousy there, yes. But I don't think that's the primary reason why he dislikes them. He's fine with other demons. He never had an issue with Riley. Like, you can't just say it's a jealousy thing, because he liked Riley. He was kind to Riley. He was friendly with Riley. I think the fact that Jesse didn't get a second chance. Jesse was turned into a vampire, and Xander was told unequivocally that you can't save him, you can't help him, there's nothing that can be done. We have to kill him. And yet Angel and Spike both are vampires who were given second chances, third chances, multiple chances. And why did they get those chances but Jesse didn't? And I think that it's never really developed over the course of the show, because honestly Jesse's just kind of forgotten and never referenced again, which is odd, but whatever. But I do think there's a thing there where Xander legitimately hates vampires because of what happened to his friend, and how these two vampires in particular are given leeway to redeem themselves, to grow, to evolve, to come back from the brink. But Jesse was not. Jesse was never given that opportunity. And I think that's where a lot of his bitterness comes from. A lot of his hatred towards Angel and Spike, I think, are because of Jesse. But no one ever talks about that. No one ever references that. No one ever thinks about it like that. Because it's one of the most popular opinions you can have as a Buffy fan is fuck Xander. Which I think is shallow and not really based on the show. It's just people want someone to hate and like talking shit about him, and Nicholas Brandon has had some issues in real life, and I think people enjoy it. They enjoy hating on things. That's why you go on so many Facebook groups and people are like, what's your least favorite episode? What episode do you always skip because you just can't stand it? Who's your least favorite character? And I watch these things, I look at these things and I'm just like, why do you want the negative aspects of something you enjoy? Why do you want to talk badly about things that bring you happiness? Why are we looking for the negative qualities of things? What does that get you? What do you get out of that? How's that enjoyable? I don't know. I've never understood that side of fandom. But it is rapid. Like, it's a huge part of fandom, especially on, like, Facebook. I don't know. It's insane. But Buffy finally beats Luke. Getting back to the story, she outsmarts him. She's like, "You forgot about sunrise," and throws it, and it breaks, and Luke freaks out, and she's like, "It's in a couple hours, dumbass," and then she kills him from behind. And it's like, I love that Buffy isn't above like intelligence, using her brains to win. If Braun isn't going to get it done, she outthinks her competitors, and I love that. I think that's one of the things that makes her such a great character, such an endearing character, and such a leader. Like, Giles could very easily be the leader of the Scoobies. He's older, he's wiser. It's his job to lead and guide. But he very much plays the role of mentor. Buffy's the leader. She's the main character, not just because the show's named after her, but because she's always the one that takes the lead. She does the things that other people are afraid to do. And there's something beautiful about that. Willow saves Giles from Darla with holy water, which I think's great. The Scoobies get everybody out of there. The Master's plan is foiled and he's still stuck underneath. It's it really is, it's feel good. The Scoobies did it. They saved the day. Even Angel's surprised. The next day at school, everyone acts like nothing happened. And it's just like, come on. Like, you can't all just pretend that didn't happen. That was pretty intense. They were vampires. They were like killing people on stage by sucking their blood, and no one acknowledges it. They all just cognitive distance themselves from it. But I do love the ending of the episode. Plays on to the ending of the like one of the last lines in the last episode where Giles goes, the Earth is doomed, and then the last episode, the Earth is definitely doomed. So I love that you got that here for the first time. These two episodes, the 2-part series premiere, I think really established why this is one of the greatest shows ever made. In my estimation, the greatest show ever made. And it's easy to see where the love and devotion for the show comes from, because it's so beautifully written, incredibly acted. Like, the direction is everything about this show. You're sucked in. It's the ending of the second episode, and you know all of these characters. There have been shows I've watched where you're a season in and you're still kind of like, do I really know these characters? Do I have any real affinity towards these characters? But at the end, by the end of the first episode, you feel it. But by the end of the second episode, it's really cemented. You feel for these characters. You feel sorry for Xander when he kills Jesse. You're worried about Cordelia when Jesse's trying to kill her. Xander saved her, which I gotta love for everything that comes later. It just, they do a lot in a short amount of time on the show, and you gotta kind of love it. Like, it's brilliantly made. But yeah, so this has been episode 2, The Harvest of Sunnydale Live. I'm Jonathan. Give us legends.